I still want to ask you two quick questions.
Yes.
To get, and love to speak to you perhaps again, but we have these divisions today. We know that you served under then John Paul I briefly, John Paul II for many years.
Especially John Paul II.
Yes, and he was confronting the Soviet Union.
Right.
So John Paul, then he became very old and sick, and he was a model of a man suffering and keeping the faith. Then we had the Professor Pope, his...
Tremendous. But let me tell you about... I know Joseph Ratzinger.
Yes.
The time of the council.
Yes.
All right? And at the time of the council, he was not a peritus, by the way. He was just a theologian with Cardinal Frings,
yes,
who was his archbishop. So, hey, some of his ideas were not really what were his ideas later on.
So he was...
When he went back
yes,
in pastoral life, that is the great
change.
The great change, not only that, but the great Joseph Ratzinger that we know, the great Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger that we know, the great Benedict XVI, whom we love.
And that is because he saw the common people needed to be confirmed in their faith, and the intellectuals that he had been among in the universities could debate things, but the people needed something for their lives.
That is correct.
And he needed to offer that to them.
And that's Benedict XVI.
And then we reach now his strange resignation, unprecedented really, and the election of Pope Francis, and bringing up to our own time. And I wanted to ask about those two things, and then about Archbishop Vigano, who has denounced a kind of corruption that came or crept into the church, perhaps through lack of discipline. It's, of course, human fallibility, but somehow a culture that became a little bit closed, and a culture, we say, of cover-up. And yet he's carried that criticism over into the doctrinal realm and said we became worldly, we became humanistic, we became focused on social problems, and we lost our reverence for God, to the point that he's criticizing the Pope himself. These are the questions I wanted you to reflect on.
That I do not agree. And as we said before, remember, when I told about the presidents, my popes, they're still my presidents. Even though I don't agree and I don't like whatever, whatever they do, or probably as I said, I don't like their nose, whatever, but they were my presidents. The same thing with my popes, no matter what. They are my popes.
Yes.
And that's it. So there is no two ways about it. So what really counts is understanding, that they are trying their best. But as you said before, the frailty. Always, I would like to conclude in a way.
All right.
If you allow me.
All right.
1801.
There was Napoleon.
All right, let me tell you. This is a beautiful, but it's an incredible story to understand more than ever, whatever is the problem. 1801, he sits down, and there was one of the greatest diplomats that we have in the history of the church, Ercole Consalvi.
Consalvi.
So he was the Secretary of State.
Mm-hmm.
So the great emperor, a little bit of a thank you, sitting down on his throne, and he says, this is the Concordat. And the great Secretary of State is sitting down. Remember, the Pope is actually a prisoner of Napoleon. Pius VII is there, a prisoner. So much so that he had been elected in Venice, not in Rome, because the French had occupied Rome, just to give you a glimpse. So what happens? Well, he looks at the Concordat, and he says, Your Majesty, the Pope is never going to sign this Concordat because it's one-sided. And a little bit of a think, he gets up from his throne and he starts pacing up and down, and he says, those famous words. If he doesn't sign, I'm going to destroy the church. Cardinal Consalvi remained seated. And he said, well, Your Majesty, we have been trying to destroy the church from within for 1700 years, and we have not succeeded. You, from the outside, you will never succeed. A few years passed, Pius VII arrived in Rome triumphantly, and the poor guy ended up, you and I know where.
On the island of Elba in prison.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, not Elba, it was St. Helena.
St. Helena.
Yeah.
You have very, very good memory, better than me. Monsignor, you have to celebrate Mass. I have been honored to have this conversation with you.
It was a pleasure to see you again.
All right. Thank you so much. God bless you, and God bless your father and your mother and the great teacher. And
Yes.
I appreciate the time you've spent with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Give my love to the family.
Okay.